Margo, who was on the podcast.
Yeah.
Franklin's owner, right? Margo sent me a video. This video has been going around for a while here. This is the video of this Rottweiler. Getting a bath. Growling. Being an idiot.
Step 2 a towel time. Step 3 brush. And he is happy and done. Oh, they're so gorgeous.
Okay.
Wow.
Now, I don't know if this is the same dog or not from the video that I posted a long time ago. You remember that video, the Rottweiler growling, like turning to go bite the girl's face?
Yeah.
Right? I'm not sure if this is the same dog or not. A part of me is assuming it is because it looks very similar, and I can't imagine why multiple people would be posting things like this in like a funny light.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So, anyways, this video started getting popular, I don't know, a couple weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago when I think it was posted. And it even kind of came up as a more prevalent topic because Cesar Millan, Mr. Dog Whisperer, made a post watching the video, almost laughing about it, kind of talking about how it's common Rottweiler behavior and that's just the dog that he is and this and that, right? So people wanted kind of my take on this, right?
This is going to be a hot take, isn't it?
Yeah, it might be. I don't think this is going to be as big of a deal as everybody thinks it's going to be. So here's the thing, right? So first is the question of, is this common Rottweiler behavior or is this something to be very concerned about kind of thing, right? So we know, we've talked about this before, Rottweilers in general are notoriously headstrong, dominant, pushy dogs, right? We'll see a lot of handler aggression issues with them. We'll see a lot of pushback out of them, right? Stuff like that. With that being said, I don't necessarily know that it's common that they're going to be displaying quote-unquote aggression to the extent of this dog, right? I think that yes, it's common to see that pushback from them. It's common for them to have a little bit of attitude in places, but not like that, right?
Yeah.
When I look at things like this, what I look at is that dog is actively challenging them over all of these things. Now, is it common for a dog like that to challenge you initially? Yes, I would say that it is, right? But if you establish a relationship with this dog on structure, discipline, rules, things like that, when you're encountered with those types of situations, you should be in a position to be able to work through them from the standpoint of giving consequences for that type of behavior, for getting them to ultimately stop doing that around you, for getting them out of that challenging state of mind so that the grooming related things like bath time or nails or towel off or brush off or any of those types of things aren't as big of a deal, right? So he at some point learns that that doesn't work, right? Now, how would you go about doing that? It depends from dog to dog, right? I do think you need to accept the fact that some dogs are going to be more pushy or more resistant about those types of things, but I would not be okay with just saying that's the way that it's going to be, right? I don't know. It's a hard one. I look at that one, and I think even Matt actually sent that video to me a couple weeks ago. It was just like, man, this is a hard one because after Cesar Millan posted about it, it's like everybody's now either thinking like he's cuckoo for saying that, or they're kind of questioning everything they would have thought about those types of behaviors in general, right? Dogs are going to have quirks, right? Like I talk about Vinny a lot, and there are certain things that I could do with him where he's going to growl or he's going to give me pushback and stuff like that. And I know that he has thresholds with things, right? And those types of things, the difference is I need to take those things seriously. I understand that there's an inherent risk with doing those types of things. And listen, Vinny's not going to attack me or anything, right? But he may try to bite me if I pick him up and try to carry him around like a baby, or if I, when he goes to the vet and is being handled, or if he's in a situation where he's really, really uncomfortable, he's going to try to give some of that pushback as well, right? I think the thing that I don't like about it is the lack of taking it seriously. That they're in these situations and they're posting videos about it, thinking it's funny, and even the way that guy's brushing that dog, like he's like his face is like 6 inches away from the dog's face while he's doing it and stuff. And it's like, okay, cool. I'm glad that for however many years you've had this dog, you've been able to do this. And when he growls and snarls at you and stuff like that, he hasn't done anything, but you have to keep in mind when you're watching something like that, that dog is actively challenging you while they're doing that.
Yeah.
Right? It's not like they've given up and they're submitting and being submissive and all this kind of stuff. He's actively challenging you. And because he's actively challenging you, there's a potential that he's going to try to take it one step further.
Yeah.
Right? And that's why I get concerned when I see stuff like that. It's not that I expect all of these dogs to be perfect, or that I expect all of these dogs to be, super bomb-proof and submissive and allow us to do anything to them. I think that, to Caesar's point when he talked about it, I think he said, that's their behavior. That's who the dog is, right? Yeah, he is a dog that is a challenging, dominant dog, right? But the problem is you have to take that seriously, and you have to understand that because that's who he is, there are certain things you should alter about the way that you're doing those types of things, as opposed to just exposing it as a funny thing. So I don't know. It's a weird one. Have you seen that video at all?
I had not seen that video yet, but I do remember the one that we were talking about beforehand.
Yeah.
Like about a year ago, I'd say, that came out.
Something like that.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, like, kind of like what you said. I mean, it just takes one time.
Yeah.
Like, maybe you get too close, or you finally just push the dog a little too far.
Yeah.
Bite your face.
Yeah. Yeah. For sure. It's like what at that point, if that's who he is, and that's a dog that's going to challenge you in aggressive format, it's like, okay, cool. Well, like, at what point does he say enough is enough with that?
Yeah.
Because I talk about aggression as kind of a spectrum or a sequence, right? A lot of people, let's go to the conversation of like correcting for aggression. A lot of people say, like, if you correct growling or you correct barking, then the dog will just go straight to biting, right? Or any of that, right? You stop the growl, you don't stop the bite, kind of thing. When I look at stuff like that, even, I don't think that's necessarily the case, because I think everything goes in a particular sequence of, okay, cool. So dog starts by getting uncomfortable, right? Then that transitions to growling. Then that transitions to snarling. Then that transitions to snapping. Then that transitions to actually going after something, right? And in order for it to get to the ladder of going after something, it has to go through those stages. Now, sometimes that may be quick, right? Sometimes that may be really, really fast, but it has to cycle through all of that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah.
Flip this phone over. It's bothering me. And when I look at something like that, that's like a middle ground of the sequence, right? And that sequence will always continue to amplify. It's not like it stops right there, right? No. At some point, it will go to the next part of that sequence, Yeah. We call it the sequence of escalation. We used to use this as an example with reactive dogs, right? If you have a reactive dog, of a dog that looks at another dog, right? Then adrenalizes, then goes to pull towards the end of the leash, then goes to whine, then goes to bark, then goes to lunge, et cetera, right? The sooner in that sequence you can stop that behavior, right? And the more clearly you could stop it to them, it won't escalate all the way to the ladder, right? We rarely ever see a dog go from totally calm to like absolute freaking out lunging without any in between. Right. So equating that to this, with this dog's sequence, I would be looking at where in that sequence do we need to, understand that we need to put in place some sort of safety protocol, or in this case, if we're going to use some sort of correction in order to knock the dog down a couple notches with it, how are we going to handle that situation?
Yeah.
So I would also be curious, just because a dog is a certain way, right? Just because a Rottweiler is, genetically coded to be a certain way, and that's the dog that he is, doesn't necessarily mean that those behaviors can't be stopped as well, right?
Yeah.
Now, I don't know, right? We've worked with plenty of dogs like that before that, you originally started like that, very growly, very challenging over those types of things. And as we were able to isolate certain behaviors and stop them or inhibit them, we've been able to see a massive reduction in the dog's behavior as well. So, even though he's not biting right now, it's like, okay, cool. Well, can we get it better? Because even if he's not biting you, that's a very unhealthy state of mind for a dog to be in. And maybe he's only not biting you when he's doing those types of things because you guys have established a relationship where he knows that he's not going to take it the next step further. But if he cycles into that sequence with somebody else, he probably is going to take it that next step further.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I actually have a perfect story for this.
A story?
Yeah.
I'm ready.
So when I was a young lad back in Indiana, my aunt had 2 Rottweilers, Hans and Heidi. I was probably 6 at the time, and one of my favorite things to do was chase Heidi with this branch that had leaves on it still. And she hated it. Like, she was scared of it.
Naturally.
And she would growl at it and whatever. But I would do this it was like a week straight. And then one day, I got her, and then it was like we were like on the back porch, and it was like an enclosed kind of back porch. And I got her in the corner, and I was like, yeah. And then she just went flunk right on my head, right here.
Oof.
Just went boop like that. And like, she didn't break skin because she was just trying to get away. But I had like this perfect imprint on my forehead of just this Rottweiler thing. But it was something that, I was young and dumb. I had no idea. I was 6 years old.
Sure.
But it was like, for a week, though, I was doing the same thing. It was like, oh, well, everything's fine. And then finally one day, it's just...
Yeah, like, she's not going to do anything.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and then just... Whoop,
yeah.
right on my head. I was just... It's like one of those things that you remember that, oh, my God.
Well, this goes back to, like... that is a perfect story for this. Yeah. This goes back to a lot of those... remember we did that reaction video of all of the clips of people essentially, like, antagonizing their dogs and their dogs, like, doing, like... quote unquote funny, aggressive things back to them and all this and that, right?
Yeah.
It's like, okay, cool. Like, we do these things and we make it comical, right? Like, we think it's funny to push our dogs' buttons or antagonize them, even if it's real life things, right? Like, obviously we need to groom our dogs, right? So I don't know if they're necessarily intentionally pushing the dog's buttons, but they know the dog doesn't like it, right? And as opposed to having a strategic problem-solving mindset of, like, what things can I do to make this go more effectively so the dog over time gets more comfortable with it, they're looking at it as, ha, it's funny, I'm just going to keep doing it exactly this way, right? Where your example, it's different, right? You were just antagonizing the dog just for the sake of antagonizing the dog. But let's say, hypothetically speaking, that was... I don't know, a vacuum cleaner, right? Because we see a lot of dogs that are scared of the vacuum cleaner and will show these growly, aggressive behaviors towards it.
Yeah.
Right? I'm not just going to willy-nilly go vacuum and, like, do it around the dog and get them scared of it and this and that. Because at some point, same deal, the dog is going to do something that's going to be one step further, whether it's try to bite the vacuum or bite me or be uncontrollably scared or whatever.
Yeah.
I'm going to come up with a plan in order to desensitize the dog to that thing, right? I'm going to come up with a plan to show them, hey, this thing is not actually that scary, but it's also something that you need to tolerate, right?
Yep.
And that's the way we should be looking at situations like this, right? Again, Caesar's right from the standpoint of that's probably the dog to some extent, right? That's the type of temperament he has. He's going to be a pushy dog, right?
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that you can't improve those things. And I think we have to look at those situations as opposed to, how do we continue to improve that given the fact that that's the kind of dog that he is?
Yeah, exactly.
So
it's never going to be a perfect picture, but you can make it much better
100%.
for the dog's life and your life.
100%.